in 9 out of 10 deals, the producer has not been paid the day the music comes out, which I've said a ton of times. This is very common.
I know somebody who has a Grammy from a Lil Wayne song who still hasn't gotten paid from that song. Like, he has the physical.
What up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Music Entrepreneur Club podcast. I am taking over intro duties because DJ Payne 1 is in a lot of pain, but we are happy that he is still here with us today. Also joined by Erinn Knight. Appreciate everybody that taps into the podcast. Make sure you subscribe to this new channel. Also, got to remind you that we are sponsored by 2Loss. So if you want 3 months free music distribution, make sure you go to 2Loss, use the code MEC. But we're going to jump right into it today because we got a lot of stuff to talk about. How are you guys feeling? Well, I know how Payne's feeling.
Terrible. Skip me.
Erinn, you look a little tired. I'll be honest. Everybody look a little tired right now. What's up?
I'm in Austin running the streets, so I'm tired, but I'm encouraged. I actually had a really great day yesterday where I felt like I had a lot of mental and business breakthrough. So I was just up till 5 a.m., really 4:30, programming things in my head because I was really excited, stuff started to line up. So I'm tired, but I'm good. It's just because I got excited. And when I get excited, it's hard for me to turn my brain off.
Yeah, it's a lot going on. I think a lot's going on for all of us over the past couple of weeks. Payne, do you want to share why you're in pain?
I wish I knew. It's something, the more training I do, the more athletics I'm involved in. When I was lazy and just sat on my ass all the time, I never got injured. So don't go out there and try to be an athlete, guys. Actually, I'm kidding. That's terrible advice. But watch your form. Certainly watch your form. And if you experience pain, don't continue working out.
Yeah. No, I think just a message to my older folks. Yeah, you want to stay active, but you also want to spend more time with the stretching and the recovery. All that stuff matters a lot more as you get older. Because I try to stay as active as possible. I still hoop, still play softball on Thursday nights. So I'm trying to stay injury free. So knock on wood here. But all right, we got a lot of stuff to jump into. Where do we want to start? Erinn, want to start with your topic?
Yeah, mine will be short. It's more of an encouragement to people.
Okay. Well, tee it up.
So LaRussel, I think it was No Labels Allowed, reposted a video from LaRussel. Tieta is asking him advice on what a brand new artist should do for marketing as well as promotion. So do we have the clip?
All right, here we go. So I'm assuming this original clip is from LaRussel's Free Game Fridays because it's just Tieta and LaRussel.
As an independent artist,
I would say make 15 songs. Pick 5 out of those 15 that you feel really, really good about, or do all 15. I would say go make a really dope piece of visual content for all of them and release it before the song even comes out and see which one moves. The one that moves, I would make 3 or 4 more pieces of content for that and then release that one to DSPs and let it circulate. If you get a piece that breaks your threshold, start running ads behind that piece of content and then rinse and repeat. All I've done is make a shit ton of music and a shit ton of content to support it and ran ads behind the pieces that work.
So, Erinn, why did you want to bring this to our attention?
Well, because it's the end of the year and I feel like so many artists hoard music and then they come up with this elaborate thing man, next year is going to be different. In fact, I ran a breakout session during a writer's retreat or a writer's workshop about 3 weeks ago when I was in Atlanta. And this one guy was like, yeah, I have over 80 songs complete that I enjoy still. And I was like, whoa, that's amazing. He's like, I've been recording since 2021. And I was like, all right, it's time for you to release. And so he was like, I'm just trying to get a plan together, yada, yada, yada. I said, drop one before the end of the year and then drop one every 50 to 45 days after that, but you need to write your cadence down. You know what I'm saying? And I kind of just gave him some game, but I was like, you got to drop one before the end of the year. I said, because if you wait till the new year, you're going to talk yourself out of it again. And there's going to be some other, because apparently he was like, well, I thought I was going to sign with this indie label. Then I thought I needed to change distributors. Then my homeboy was going to drop he just had all these things. So I'm like, don't worry about anybody else. Just drop your own. And so I think a lot of times we hear artists saying, how do I cut through the noise, or what's a good marketing plan? My thing is, this is such a great and concise marketing plan. You'll have time because you'll be around your friends and family who can shoot you on iPhones, who can pop up. Well, hopefully you'll be around friends and family during the holidays, and it doesn't stress you out, Lord willing. You can have them, shoot you. You can have some of your homies on the block, whatever. You're standing near them. You could take your mom out to dinner. Maybe you're shooting content there. Who knows? But there are 3 free months available for you on Two Lost to distribute. And there is an opportunity for you to say, hey, this is a plan. Let me stick with it. My thing is, I think that a lot of times people ask for a plan as another false start, because there's a lot of plans out there. But this to me was the easiest but most descriptive. It's like you need 15 songs and you need to release at least 5 of them that you like. You choose which songs based off of yourself releasing the music and seeing how people respond just to the media clips that you're posting. And if it's just above what your normal is, that's what you run ads behind. And so there's got to be a level of consistency and accountability to the system, but you don't need anything for this. You don't need any money. You don't need, like, if you have a phone that you're watching this on, you have the 3 months of distribution and you have a plan. And so my challenge is for artists and producers listening to this. Let's follow this plan. I want to see, if you're going to say, I'm going to do it, I'm jumping in, whatever, comment that, please, down below on YouTube. I want to see who follows the plan, because I would like to see in 3 to 6 months where you are with following this plan. And the thing is, the place that does take money is the last part where you have to run ads. Most people aren't going to get to testing this many songs on their socials, because after they post 3 or 4 videos, or they may post them too soon, there's not much of an indicator. They'll throw a little bit of ads behind something, or they won't at all, and then they'll say it didn't work. So make sure you pay attention to what he's saying. I would lean towards the more content, just so you can get in the habit of it. So instead of saying I'm going to shoot one piece of content behind 5 to 15 other videos, I'm saying go ahead and shoot at least 3 pieces of content behind at least five songs, but you could do it to more. And then don't just drop it randomly. Think about the story that you're trying to tell with the song. Think about the story of you as an artist, and think about your captions and then the way that the video should look, or why it matters where you're shooting. Again, you don't have to spend a lot of money, and it won't take time to execute this, but it will take some intentionality. So I think if you can be intentional and you lean into this, I would love to see anybody who tries this and then ad spend. I'd recommend setting aside $20, right? There are a lot of different platforms that you can utilize, whether it's Facebook itself, whether it's Symphony, whether it's any other ad manager that you utilize, your homeboy who works at Meta, who knows how to run ads, who knows. But I would say utilize all of your strengths as far as that goes. If you don't know how to run ads well, maybe there's another homie who does, and you're like, hey, bro, I'll come shoot you, and then you run ads for me. Or again, there's systems that you can use if you're not good at these things, and just watch a couple YouTube videos. But to me, this seems very low lift, especially if you already have music. It seems like maybe a 5 to 10 hour a month investment if you already have the music. If you don't have the music already, I see it as maybe a 5 to 10 hour investment a week. And I feel like if that's all it takes for you to see a little bit of traction to restore some of your hope and give you some creative boost and synergistic boost towards what you believe that you really are good at, then I would say let's try it. And so as we're winding down the year, as folks are looking for inspiration to start the top of the year or the end of the year, I would encourage you to follow this formula.
Yeah, and you know why I like this advice more than anything else, because he's not putting a dollar amount on it or a timeline. It's just a framework. And this is one of those frameworks that works, I think, in all things in life. You got to tweak it a little. You brought up producers. The advantage producers have is we can make 15 beats and drop all 15. Because even if only one or two of them take off, even if the rest are getting single digit views, that's still potential to sell them. So I think producers have it easier when it comes to this approach for a lot of reasons. And I encourage producers to do this all the time. I think the core of this is so important because most people go into their marketing rollout planning and they're overwhelmed. They're like, I know I got to spend a certain amount. What's the magic amount? What's the magic timeline? What's the magic platform? It's like, there's no magic platform. I always tell people, don't spend money right away. Do not gather data. It's free. And what LaRussel is saying is just keep releasing music until you get data back. Because if you don't have data, you have no idea what you're doing. A lot of artists drop a song and they put $1,000 behind it and then it flops and they're like, okay, well, it's a scam. Producers too. They drop a bunch of beats for a month, put a bunch of money behind one, and they're like, okay, my beats aren't selling. It's a scam. Because they have no data or insight into what the customers and the listeners actually are resonating with. They're just trying to force it on them and force them into buying something. It doesn't work that way. And you're spending money. So when I do consultations with producers and I look at their data, I'm like, wow, you had one YouTube video that hit 1,000. All the rest are sitting at 100, all your beats. They're like, okay, yeah, I put money behind that. I'm like, damn, I wish you hadn't, because that messes with the data. Go all organic, because I want to see which one. If they're all getting 100, one of them is going to hit 5. So we want to examine what went well with that 5 and maximize on that, scale that up, figure out what content is working for you. Because I never want to just tell people, dump money behind it. It doesn't work. And a lot of people will come on a camera and look straight at the camera and say, this is how much money you need. And this is how your career will take off. You have to invest this amount. This will happen. No, there's no magic number. And it's crazy to me how more music business gurus aren't focused on lead generation. Ultimately, that's what we're doing. We're generating leads. We're not generating leads for people to buy a candle at Bath and Body Works. We're generating a lead for a potential listener or a pre-save on a Spotify track, or we're generating a lead for a potential beat buyer. But it's the same concept, and it's all just marketing and data collection and interpreting and analyzing data and then basing your next move on actual facts. You have the numbers there. Okay, I'm no longer just throwing money at whatever. I have no idea what's going to work. Now I know what's working. Okay, the people like this reel. This reel got 10K. I've never gotten that many. Let me put an ad behind that. Whether it's to promote a beat or a song, do that. Seriously. And don't put a ton of money either. Like save your money. You're going to burn yourself out if you're just spending because someone on a podcast told you to. And we're not going to be the ones to tell you. It's going to be some other podcast.
Well, let me, I'm not a huge fan of this plan. Be honest with you. I'm not a huge fan. To me, this is like your base model. This is like your out the box. Like if you want to just do the bare minimum, in my opinion. One, I don't like the plan. I don't like this plan because it has like an ending. To me, you should have like a plan that extends, that doesn't stop. You either add to or just kind of, modify the plan as you go. But, and I'm not saying that he clearly said that you stop after this, but I just like a strategy moving forward. This is how we're going to move until we get data that proves we should move differently. The other piece of this plan is that, I don't think LaRussel, he simplified like how he got to where he's at, right? He's missing a lot of pieces. He's missing his confidence, his comfortability on camera, his charisma. He's missing his messaging, his story. None of that is part of the plan right now, or at least articulated as part of the plan. So people can hear this, and I know people will hear this and be like, okay, all right, it's just about dropping content. It's not just about dropping content. It's dropping content that resonates with people. And I know, I guess that's part of his, like, see what's working. But to me, it's going to take a lot more pieces of content than this to eventually get to not only the cadence of releases, but like how you release it, the story you're telling. So to me, this is a very bare bones. And if you expect great results from this plan, then I think you're going to be sadly mistaken. Maybe from this plan, you get more information on how you can continue to fine tune and enhance. But to me, this is like the base model if you ain't doing shit right now.
I think that I agree with that. I think that that's exactly what this is. You got a ton of music and you're not doing anything. So I'm not at all saying that this is a complex thing, but I'm saying if you're struggling with movement or you're not seeing people engaging with the content that you're dropping, to me, this makes a lot of sense. And I think that there are things, as somebody who works in marketing, there's so much that you can read between the lines. I agree he's not giving you exactly everything because people won't pay attention to it. There's not enough, like you need the bite-sized clip to think that you can do it, right? That's my person. You need this small.
People not gonna pay attention to this. They're not gonna pay attention. They're not gonna pay attention to this. Like,
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I want to challenge some people. If you are going to follow this methodology, even if it's a couple people, just comment below because I'm with you. It's not going to change your life, but it could change your life because I think, like you said, build on small wins. Sometimes just getting the momentum boost, the accountability to a process, the system, a lot of times systematizing something for somebody who feels stuck or stagnant really changes their life. I can say it from my own experience. That's why I work with coaches, because the moment you systematize the thoughts in my head, I'm like, okay, boom, this is what we do now, right? And so I agree with what you're saying, but I don't think that that's a reason to discount it. I think that's all the more reason to try. I think that's also why he says record 15 songs, because at first, if you record one and you're like, this is the one that's going to get us out the hood. Or if you're like really precious with the songs, like Payne said, you're like, I put $1,000 or I put, $200 behind this song. It's like, why? Well, because I really liked it. It's like, you haven't hit enough data points. Release, like Payne said, 4, 5, 6, 10. That's what I'm saying. 3 per song. Release on a system, making sense, a cadence that flows well, telling a story about who you are as a artist and potentially the songs as they relate to each other. And when I say telling a story, I'm not talking about writing long captions. I'm saying make this make sense. Or who are you watching and studying? Make it make sense. Spend some time studying, but release. And I agree. I think there's a lot of people who want to flood the market and they're going to be like, man, at the top of the year, I got all this content that I'm going to drop. I don't like that at all. I think it's dumb and I think it's foolish to just drop a ton of content without a plan. But I do think that this is the plan. And as you start to get the feedback from the plan, you mitigate, moderate, you make changes. And so I do agree. It's not just about dropping content around the music. It's about the feedback though. And it's about something that you may have never paid attention to. Like, okay, all of my videos are getting around 200 to 350 views. So maybe I just need to try to drop a video around this one song. So I'm going to shoot 8 more pieces of content for the song that I like the most. Okay. Nothing happened. Okay. I'm going to shoot 3 more pieces of content around each of the other 2 songs and start dropping. Okay. Nothing happened. Maybe I need to go do a collab song with my homeboy, or maybe I need to shoot in a brighter room, or maybe I need to, I don't know. You make all of these changes. And then when you say, okay, most of my videos got between 2 and 350 views, but this one got 690 views. Boom. I'm going to put $20 behind this, but I'm also going to put $10 behind the other 2 videos that contain this song to see if it's this video or if it's this song, right? This is the process for sure, but telling people this is overly simplified to people who are already just shooting shit in the dark, like just throwing up a ton of content or not doing anything, I think this gives you a viable plan to start experimenting and getting data from. Again, like Payne says, 100%. We talked about this months ago. I'm like, this is all sales. And like you said, it's lead generation. We're all in the lead generation game. I don't actually think it's a lead generation for maybe for our producers for a sale. And for an artist, it could be for a pre-save, but I think pre-saves are about to go. I think it's just the process of earning leads, but also getting you in the habit of saying, oh, there's data for me to be observing in order for me to have a viable business here.
Well, because what do they do if they don't have data?
Observing any data.
Like, how do you go deeper into a more sophisticated rollout without data?
No, well, what I'm saying is you don't necessarily need that. Like we've been online long enough to know we have too many examples at this point. Like if I'm talking to an artist that needs this base model to start, then I'm not talking to that artist again until like, all right, a few years. Like that's not the level, because we can be smarter about what we're doing out the gate. This is ridiculous. Like, you know, if you need this, okay, that's, you know, if you need this to get started, to get motivated, cool. But just know that you are on level like 0. Like if you just applied a little bit more creativity, you can come up with a plan that will get you results and probably be effective as long as the content is cool much sooner than needing to employ this strategy, in my opinion.
Can you give us a couple of examples, Dame, so that people know?
What do you mean? Examples of what?
Like, what are some smarter, more efficient ways? Like, could you give them an alternative?
Yeah, I mean, I would come up with a branded content series. So I would release the music under like a branded content series that's part of my story, right? I would kind of know, like, you know, just from looking at other artists and other content, like what's going to work, or a higher likelihood of working as opposed to just creating content, right? Because it's not, I know LaRussel has posted a lot of content, you know, so he's probably posted more content than any other artist that I can think of. Like, I think he posts the most. But yeah, I mean, I would figure out, okay, my cadence makes sense because, you know, my story, I love the number 7 for some reason. So I'm going to release or I love the number 11. So I'm going to release every 11 days. You know, there's just to be more thought as opposed to like make 15 songs and just run some ads and see what people like. Cause that's not enough data anyway to like make any meaningful decisions. And that's why your plan has to be longer than 15 weeks or however long it takes you to release the content that you make up front. Like, it has to be a consistent plan that you don't plan on. Like, you have no idea when you're going to stop. You're only going to add and modify, and you're just going to keep things rocking, right? Just like this podcast, we try to come up with new segments, new ideas, try to get better, lighter. We don't have a set date of stopping and then be, okay, now what do we do?
Well, I think this is the problem with music business education then, because even if we say this, someone's going to find a way to misinterpret it. So with people like Russ or Chappell Roan or LaRussel giving advice that worked for them, there are many blank spaces. So for this is just a general framework. It's so simple and simplified. It's not specific because it can't be specific. In my opinion, you can't specifically give an artist a rollout strategy. You can't specifically give an artist a content strategy unless you really know them super well. So if I'm LaRussel and I'm shooting this clip, I'm going to tell you at the most basic level. Regardless, someone's going to misinterpret it. And someone's going to say, well, I just made content. Well, you didn't make it creatively? No, I just made content. You didn't tell your story through it? No, LaRussel said just make content. Okay, well, you're being obtuse for no reason because something's lacking in your ability to synthesize this information. I just think, you know, everything you said, Dame, it still entails what LaRussel is saying. It's just more sophisticated and intentional. But if you never start, you can't get there. And if I'm doing this, if I'm gathering data, then obviously I'm going to need to, use best practices. So research times of days to post the content, research best practices in terms of my branding and the story I'm going to tell, what's the best format for doing so, add my own creativity into it. If I'm not doing those things, I've got bigger problems than listening to LaRussel and misunderstanding what he's saying.
Like, I think, Dane, what you're saying is there's a methodology, you know, or like a system, and then there's like a means or like a thought process behind it. So you saying release it around a content series. If I say, okay, we're going to be releasing 15 songs across the next 6 months, it's got to be geared towards it. You know what I'm saying? And so I get what you're saying, that there could be a more sophisticated. I'm just saying the simplicity of it doesn't negate its effectiveness, because I'm with our page in Austin, we've got 25,000 or close to 25,000 followers. We've done that in a year. We have really good engagement. So we're starting to make money off of just like showing up places and talking about them. Right. But the thing that we're about to do is retest what are our four strongest pillars, because we want to just do money making activities. So we're about to do almost the exact same thing, where we're dropping 3 or 4 pieces of content a week organically into the end of the year, seeing what works. And then starting in the end of the year or top of the year, we're putting ads behind anything in the vertical that works. Do you know what I'm saying? So I feel like you could say it's not very sophisticated, but as somebody who has a page that's thriving and being monetized right now, I'm about to use this very simple system.
But it's so different already. One, you just mentioned pillars. Like, they're probably like, okay, so obviously you're thinking about something a little differently. Two,
he's
you
not
got
giving every single detail, because you can't just say pillars in a video and people know what that means.
Okay, but people listening to this are taking what he's saying and say, okay, I just need to create content and put some ads behind it.
That's why we're talking about it. I started this segment giving more details and context, saying you have to tell a story, you have to study, you have to be intentional. You're trying to make it seem like I'm ascribing this clip to the clarity that you need. I'm expounding as we speak.
Right. And then you guys also do like live event, like your page is so much different than the person that's starting out. Like my thing is you don't have to start out, because we already have so much information. You don't have to start out with it. You can start out in a more creative, sophisticated way. Like, you don't have to start, because if you start here, that means you're going to have to learn about stuff for the next year to get where you can probably start from now.
Well, some people need that.
Well, all right.
I think a lot of people need it.
I'm not giving exact advice for everybody. My thought was, this is a simple way to get started. At the end of the year, you queue all this shit up. At the top of the year, you start to drop. I get what you're saying. There are more sophisticated things to do. But I also think this is a very simple way to get the battery pack remotivated. Some people haven't thought this way. Some people, as a concept, don't understand how to get data when people say you need your data points. Some people don't understand what this leads to, or the funnel. The sophisticated part comes from an understanding that maybe some people don't have, or maybe they're jumping into the sophisticated. I'm telling this story, and people aren't getting it, but they're just telling this whole story. They're dropping this beautiful content that has to do with something that's in their head that makes a ton of sense, that's emulating a great marketer, but they don't have a fan base, so they're not getting the return on investment. So that's all this is. I'm not saying it's the number one best practice ever. I'm just saying this is a great way to get started, and I see a ton of practicality.
Well, yeah, and in Erinn and I's defense, Dave, when we bring stuff up, like the last episode, we were talking about Metro Boomin and his advice specifically on how to transition from just making beats to producing songs. And you're like, I just want producers to know that not everyone has that skill set at this point. So don't just suddenly think you're Metro Boomin. It's the same thing, you know, it's still good advice, but without that experience level, you can call it bad advice, because you can say, okay, well, look, man, if you've never produced a song, don't just jump into a studio session running your mouth off at people. So it's the same, I'd say with this, like, don't jump into a content strategy if you don't have a creative vision for your brand. obviously, don't jump into community building if you have no idea who your community is. Don't jump into shooting music videos if you have absolutely no vision for your visual branding and the consistency.
Or if you have songs that are dropping and you're seeing indicators and peaks, maybe you've never thought about putting ads behind the ones that do the best. Because I know plenty of artists who don't think like that. Even that clip, maybe they don't take all of this, but they're like, oh, shoot, I've had 3 or 4 songs do really well over the last year. Maybe I should just run some ads behind that content. I'm not trying to be a holistic doctor. I'm just trying to tell you to drink your green juice in the morning.
It's not about being holistic. It's like, if you're looking at it from 1 to 10 in terms of, effectiveness of marketing campaigns, why start at 2 if you can start at 3 right now? That's my thing. The only thing that
some people just need to start.
Well, good luck for you. Like, the music industry is tough. Like, so I mean, you might just continue to spin your wheels. The only thing that I would take away from this that I know a lot of artists struggle with, and I literally had this debate with an artist recently, is like, still artists are reluctant to use ads because they want everything to appear organic, and that shit is weird to me. You guys are small businesses. Most small businesses in America do some type of marketing and promotion, and they're running ads. So why would you be any different? You're complaining about the reach that you're getting. This is how you get more reach. It's just the way that the game is set up. So if you're still having a hard time like spending money on ads because you want things to be or quote unquote organic, you're playing with a short deck for no reason. So I would get over that.
But don't swing in the opposite direction, like Payne said, and you're just throwing ads behind shit. Like, because don't do it for vanity metrics. That's the crazy thing. Like, again, for my page, we haven't been running ads because we were really trying to figure out who our audience base was, what our focal point was as a company. So we were just trying a lot of shit over the first year. Now that we know pretty much what we want to do, we're going to run a couple of tests even today. Like, that's the thing I'm excited about. That I'm like, okay, this is going to lead to this. There's a sales funnel, whatever. So I agree that, as a small business, you should be focused on like scaling, but don't get into, I want this video to go up, or I know I'm about to play this show. Let me put ads behind this video so that when people come to my page, they see a video that's popped. It's like, you want to create a whole sales funnel. And these are all things. This is not a plug. This is a shameless plug. It doesn't bother me, but like, these are things that when you get into the more sophisticated sides that you could talk to any one of us 3 about, like defining and redefining your story and different things like that. There are different places where you can learn these things too, but if you want to make the process faster. But I think we're all on the same page. I think Dame is just saying there's a more efficient way to do some of this. I'm saying that this could be a skill set place where you're learning a skill set that you've never tried or evaluated. But I do think it's a place that we're all agreeing that you should be studying your feedback and then moving accordingly with your business. And I think Dame is saying that instead of just bunting the ball, you could be hitting a home run with a heavier bat. And so I don't disagree with that. I just think that there are a lot of different options, and I want to offer one to encourage people, because I think a lot of times when we hear how simple something is, it also can motivate us. It's not easy. This is not easy. And so I think that's what we're kind of differentiating, Dame. Like, we're not saying that it's easy to do this well. We're just saying here's a simple process that you can follow that I think even if you're not brand new, it could be new to what you're trying to, it could be new to monetizing your music. It could be new to being consistent. Like, I have a content strategy for myself that I'm about to start. I'm by no means new, but I'm never consistent, and I'm not trying to make money off of my content until now. And so some of the things that I'm trying are very rudimentary and simple, but it's because in a way I'm brand new.
Cool. All right. Well, let's move on to the next Payne. You want to jump into your topic?
Yeah, sure. So I think it's an interesting topic in and of itself. An artist at the caliber of Kanye West going independent. I felt like that didn't get talked about enough in media, but maybe I just didn't see it because I also didn't see
it. It was all the hoopla in every podcast. I remember
but they didn't say anything.
Tweet series about it. I remember watching videos, but I will say I'm a natural studier. But it's all I saw for months because it was right when I was starting my label where I Build Your Own Dreams. So it was like in my world, it was like, whoa, this is incredible.
Were they sophisticated conversations or was it just?
Yeah, people were like breaking down his contract because remember he like released parts of his contract. So that's like I was seeing people like look through the contract. I was having some frustrating conversations, but it was like a lot of illuminated people talking about it. And maybe that's why it didn't reach like maybe like mainstream internet. But I was having some like 2, 3, 4 hour conversations, you know, on and off via Twitter, just going down the pipe hole or going down the hole, like watching YouTube videos, people going live. I held several lives at that time. I remember it being like a time like, oh shit, the indies are up in a different way. It was like Chance was a big moment. Like him just continuously, like by the time Coloring Book came out, I think he was such a big moment. I feel like Kanye was the next biggest moment in independence, in my opinion.
Yeah, I guess everything that I saw was just Kanye is independent. Now he owns everything. And it's like, well, it's not just that simple, but okay, that's the conversation people want to have more in the mainstream. But what I also didn't know about, because I'm living under a rock, evidently, is that there's a major producer community concern surrounding both Vultures albums. Based on the Billboard article, I'm just going to quote because I didn't know about this until I read these articles, and Billboard is a publication I prefer lately for specific and factual information. Since its February release, they write, Vultures 1 has earned more than 817,000 album equivalent units, so it's well on the way to platinum, according to Luminate. And here's a quote. We have clients who've produced music on the Vultures albums and have still not been paid for their services, even though both albums have been released. Bob Celestine, a music attorney, told Billboard via email, presently, we have no idea when payment will be made. It's so unfortunate and unfair. You would think Ye would be more sensitive to this issue because he is a producer. We've had trouble receiving a producer agreement from Ye, adds Brittany Trigg, another lawyer who represents a producer on Vultures 1. The problem continues to plague the music industry at its highest levels. Jason Berger, a partner at Louis Brisbois, French loanwords, estimates that in 9 out of 10 deals, the producer has not been paid the day the music comes out, which I've said a ton of times. This is very common. Unfortunately, very common. And due to the volume of new releases, the high number of collaborators on some albums, which is a good thing to add because both Vultures albums have like 50 producers on them. Shrinking major label staffs and the mercurial nature of superstars who have to sign off on producer agreements, even if they are running around the world on tour. Celestine says that producers often don't get paid for a year or more after albums come out. So what he's saying is Kanye has to sign off on every producer agreement. There might be 50 of them. There might be, 60, 70 of them. On top of that, this is important. Ye also changed distributors, leaving Label Engine, which is owned by Create Music Group, in favor of Two Lost. So Two Lost is now in the mix.
I didn't know that. Shout out to
I didn't either.
Lost.
Isn't that crazy?
That's tight.
And it says, it goes on to say, in a typical distribution deal, artists are responsible for clearing songs and dispersing royalties to collaborators. Distribution companies are usually shielded from legal liability, though many offer tools to help streamline the royalty splitting process once clearances are completed. Still earlier this year, attorneys for a number of producers on Vultures 1 banded together, coordinating their efforts via a group chat to draft threatening legal letters to send to Create, since no royalties were flowing to their clients. There's a lot here. I mean, I think we've run the producers don't get paid on time thing into the ground. What I'm confused is, so it seems like the lines between labels and distributors are starting to blur quite a bit. And you're seeing big artists use distribution deals kind of in a similar way, or in lieu of a traditional record deal.
Yeah, but I don't think the understanding of like especially for major label artists, a lot of major label artists, might start using just a distributor still expecting major label services or not understanding that, oh, okay, I'm independent, I'm going to capture more of the bread, but you have to build out more of your team and handle more of the responsibility. And I think that's where the ball gets dropped, especially, and I don't know, obviously I work for Two Laws, but I'm not working on this project at all, but just in general, I think artists that are normally have their handheld or don't worry about certain things, just don't understand that that's their responsibility when they work with a distribution company like Two Laws. And that's just guessing. I'm assuming that that's just kind of the case here. I don't think Kanye normally, when he was signed to whoever, like handled any of this.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound like he did.
I mean, I don't think he handled it, but I feel like this is like perfectly in line with it, because I remember when Donda came out, I know an artist, I think it got settled, so I'm not going to because I know that artist took down the post, but he sampled a very well-known, up-and-coming gospel artist, and everybody was, congratulating her. I think we had talked about this a little bit. She has a killer voice. I'd love to mention her name, but I don't want to get, I don't want it to be weird. But anyways, everybody was like, oh, my God, you're on Donda. And she was like, I found out when y'all started tagging me. And I was like, whoa. But there's multiple cases from Donda and Donda 2 where it was like that. I know my Def Jam rep, I just kind of got back in touch with him. And he used to always be like, we don't have the album. I remember when Donda, or when it wasn't Jesus is King. What came out after Jesus is King? Was it another gospel album, kind of? Or maybe it was Donda. I remember it was 11:20, and they still didn't have the final version. And then, when Donda 2 dropped, he changed it several times. So I don't know. I think that this is kind of a classic Kanye. He's not even giving the people who chase down the information and clear this stuff enough lead time to get this stuff cleared. So independently, hopefully he has a really advanced team and whatnot, but it could be a situation to where Vultures dropped and they didn't know what songs were going to be on it. That's a very, and then Vultures too. Now the time it's taken now since, granted, I'm not excusing this behavior because I don't like it at all. I've worked and managed short stints with producers, so it's really annoying chasing this down. But I know somebody who has a Grammy from a Lil Wayne song who still hasn't gotten paid from that song. He has the physical, the Grammy you submit and it's the year later, and then you submit for the actual Grammy that you get, and then you got to wait till it ships to you. He has the physical Grammy and it's gone multiple times, several times platinum over, and he still hasn't gotten paid for the song he produced, right?
Oh, but when he gets that check, it's going to be a crazy check.
It's going to be crazy because they're in the legal process of it right now. And it's not even like they're suing them. They're just like, hey, release our money because we know that you've accounted for it. And if you haven't, that's fine. Go back and account for it. So he's been in that proceeding for over 2 years. That check going to be crazy. But still, I'm, again, not justifying this, but this is a very standard practice. I'm confused, and maybe I don't know, and I'm not justifying it again, but why are they suing the distributor? It's up to the creator to, insert the splits and all of that. It's not like the distributor is, withholding.
I don't think they are suing them yet. I think now they're thinking of pressuring, because from what I understand, based on some insider information, I'm not going to say the lawyer's name who gave me this info, but they are filing certain lawyers who represent the producers who haven't been paid are filing DMCA takedowns against Kanye albums. And so who responds to those? The distributors. So now a distributor like Create or Two Lost are putting themselves in the middle of that fight. And I think, well, what else? What else do I expect them to do? If you try to file a DMCA, I'm owed money from Interscope from an album. If I went and filed a DMCA against the album that I'm owed money from, they're going to do the same thing. They're not just going to contact me and say, hey, we'll send you the money right away, and then we'll ask you to kindly release the claim. No, they're going to fight me. So I assume that's what Two Lost is doing.
Yeah, I don't know. Filing the DMCA, hopefully, because nobody wants the music taken down, right?
Right.
Like the producers probably don't.
Well, that's the problem with the position that producers get put in, because obviously we want to get paid as much as possible. And if we take the song down, that actually hurts us, because if the song's down, it's not generating any revenue. And so what do we do? Do we just leave it up so it generates revenue, but none of that revenue is going to us? Or do we, choose the nuclear option and really send a message and potentially cause chaos and additional static with the distributor, with the artist, with the legal team, et cetera? I don't know. And then I don't know what 2Loss is supposed to do about it.
Yeah. I mean, I anticipate, just in general, as things shift more independent and artists are required to build out their teams, probably more issues than you've ever seen in the music industry, to be honest with you. They might not be high profile, and, most independent artists, aren't going to show up in, big Billboard articles and things like that. But the type of business that I see artists doing these days, or just the lack of information, lack of knowledge, lack of a team, it's going to get wild out here. The tech exists. To make sure a lot of this is smooth. We have 2Loss is actually rolling out advanced splits. So not only can you split payments, but you can recoup balances. You'll be able to recoup balances. You'll be able to pay people up to a certain amount. So if for whatever reason, maybe you wanted to pay a photographer out of your royalties, you wanted to pay him $500, but you didn't have $500 up front, you can be like, hey, I'll give you $500 when the music starts selling. You can put them into the royalty splits and pay up to a certain amount, and then it diverts back to yourself and your other collaborators. You'll be able to do a lot more creative things in terms of compensating folks. So the tech exists. I
love that. But even with the tech existing, it's a two-way street. I just found out that one of our songs, in fact, our highest streaming song that's been released under our label, got taken down, I think, last week. And I, DMCA, whatever, it's really annoying because the producer, we've mentioned him multiple times on this podcast. He's a very well-known producer. When the project dropped 3 years ago, before it dropped, we sent the paperwork. He didn't sign it. He didn't claim his royalties. He didn't sign up for our distributor, right? So we don't have any details to give him or send the money his way, okay? A year and a half ago, he sends his manager, we've never been paid for this. We're going to issue a takedown. You owe us $15,000 and half of all the royalties on the song. And I'm like, well, here's the split sheet we sent y'all to sign off on 2 years ago. You don't own 50% of it because actually we took this loop and we did this, and this. So he only gets 33% of it. But that's on the main song. When we brought this major artist onto the song, we asked everybody to dilute by 5% so that this artist could get a bigger share. And everybody else, except for you, agreed because y'all never responded to the emails. And this is how we got this song to where it's streaming at right now. Also, your math is off because we had this song in discovery mode. So it didn't make as much money as you thought it did. Here are all the breakdowns and the details. Do you have any issues? We would be more than happy to give you the backlogged percentage and make sure that you get everything done. His lawyer comes back and says, this isn't satisfactory to us, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, so either sue us or take what we're offering. I said, we don't have the $15K to give you. This is preposterous, but just you're really owed $1,200 and we're cool to make that right. You know what I'm saying? They didn't respond. Okay. 9 months later.
They didn't agree to the initial.
No, they were just like, this doesn't make sense to us. 9 months later, they come back with a new manager and lawyer and say, we haven't been paid. Now you owe us $20,000.
No, the initial split sheet, they didn't agree to it.
No.
So then you probably shouldn't have put out the song. Or just put there, I guess. We have a text where all the producers are like, yeah, bro, we're good. We have But you do so they did agree.
Yes, but I'm saying they didn't sign that we have like text agreements, because that's what I took back to his lawyer and manager. Like, your client agreed to this. We sent everything to you and y'all didn't sign off on it, but he agreed via text to the actual split, right? And we sent split sheets plus multiple times, because we were on STEM first, then we were on video. So both times, and we have the dates that we sent multiple times where they could accept their percentage. And now I'm just like, I don't even know what to do, because it's like they never accepted their percentage. This shit just got taken down. It's our highest streaming song, and I somehow still don't care. So I'm saying, I get what you're saying. The tech is in place, but it could also, it's a two-way street, because it could be difficult. I have our shit together on our team's side. Our artist did you
put them in? Did you put them in? Okay, they didn't actually sign the split sheet, but did you just...
Yeah, we put them into the system, but in order to get paid, they have to accept their profile.
So the money's sitting there.
Yes. Yeah. The money, that's what I'm saying. We have no problem. We're like, yeah, go ahead and sign up for the thing. Their thing was like, nah, we want the $15K. I think that's why they won't accept they're split in the system, because then once they accept, then it's essentially proof that they agreed, right? So they're just trying to go back and forth on, you owe us X, Y, and Z because we did the numbers on these millions of streams and you should owe us this.
Right. Yeah. Nah, I mean, yeah, business working with independent artists. I'm going through something right now that I probably want to share on the podcast in terms of a lawsuit from a former FV member. This shit is wild. Like, it, for as many complaints as there are about labels and managers and shit, like, I think the tide's turning and people are starting to understand where a lot of the problems really start. Even though there's been no movies made about it, it's not in the papers and things like that, but a lot of these problems start with the artists, many of them. So I think we're just going to see that more and more because people refuse to educate themselves. And they're not, you can't paint all artists with a broad brush, but, even when they know shit, they want to play games. They
almost use that against you because they know what they know, and they're like looking. That's when it gets sick to me. It's one thing to be ignorant and loud. It's another thing to have at least some awareness and play the game. Yeah,
and they do some of the filthiest things, weaponizing their fan base, manipulating people. Like it gets wild out here. So these halos that are above artists' head about to strip them things down because they play a dirty game a lot of the times.
I think a lot of artists that people see take off and then kind of plateau, and they just complain and they're like, the system, y'all don't know they got skeletons in that closet. I'm looking at some artists right now that would be choking if they knew agreements that I had in place and things that I was working on, and they just kind of plateaued, and their fan base are like, you should be bigger, or you see them running the same circuits of shows. They're running with the same 3 or 4 people. You're not really seeing people mess with them. You're like, I wonder what happened to them. It's them. I promise you, it's them. People don't want to touch them because either their reputation has spread or they've shot themselves in the foot so many times, people don't want to get the residual blood on them. There's somebody I know that could be doing really well right now on multiple fronts because they're a great business person and artist, but they did so many people dirty. And by the time they got around to fucking me over, I was talking to one of my OGs and they were like, man, we really actually thought he had turned a new leaf by the time he worked with you because it didn't make sense that you were willing to work with him. I said, man, I had no idea all this shit was, they were like, yeah, nobody really wanted to say anything because we were hoping he did better. I'm like, so I just got to be the collateral, but it was like, he had, I guess, changed a little bit because I was with the artist for like 3 years and I didn't see any signs of that until literally a few months before I stopped working with them. It's funny we're bringing this up because it's kind of the reason that I'm now on the podcast, but it's a wild turn of events because that artist is just never going to take off and their other businesses are always going to plateau because everybody in both industries knows that they're not an honest person.
the playbook seems to be, don't educate myself much on the way up and just kind of, be happy that things are moving. And then when like things plateau or start going down, they're looking to point fingers. They're looking to see who did them wrong, which narrative, which victim narrative can I create, and who did something to me. When in actuality, like, they've gotten rid of the team that helped get them to where they were at. And they don't really know how to progress from there. They don't know how to progress from there. So now it's everybody else's fault. And even though I've said publicly and privately, this is what's gotten me to this place, now that's not the case. You actually did me dirty and I need X, Y, and Z from you. And it's like, nah, it's just because you're not moving. That's the problem. You had it good. You had it great and didn't want to acknowledge that. Now, things are on the downslide, and, it's nasty work. But, all right, let's just jump into this last topic really fast. We don't got much time, but, my guy, Rob Abelo, if you're not following him on Twitter, you should. He's always sharing great information about the industry. But he recently did a poll, I think of 35,000 people, and asked, what are the problems in music today? And I have it here. Some of the more, give me one sec. Some of the responses here. I think the top two are the most common answers. The other ones are just other answers that people submitted. But up top, of course, streaming or Spotify. Number two, music has been devalued. I'm not going to go through all these. Artists don't know who their fans are. Oversaturation of music, lack of real artist development and investment. And there's a list of 39. You can go check it out. The list is on Rob Abelo's Twitter. It's Abelo. It's at Abelo Rob, ABELOWROB. Payne, Erinn, I don't know if you guys went through this list at all.
Oh, yeah. I think it's hilarious how, like, some of them completely contradict with 21 and 22, not enough gatekeeping versus too much gatekeeping. I mean, it's an accurate representation, I think, of people at all levels of the business. And most people who are responding to that are probably aspiring artists. So a lot of them are frustrated.
Any of them, like, what are your guys' top two?
This is my hot take of the day, and this is like me doing what you did on the first one. My hot take is that the only issue with the music industry is you. If it's not working, it's you. Period. That's like, if it's not working, it's you. I take the same responsibility and onus. If I'm not making money, if I'm not moving forward, if stuff is not working, it's always me. Systems change, algorithms change. Shit is unique. It's a hard industry to get into, depending on who you talk to. It's a hard industry to win in for sure, though, if you talk to anybody. So if there is an issue, blaming the system or whatever, yes, there are real world issues, but none of these are big enough, in my opinion, to say, it's like anybody who answered this, I feel like is just like, this is their way, again, to false start or to not lean all the way in. Well, this is the issue and this is the issue. I couldn't spend too much time going down the list because I'm like, I could agree or disagree with all of these to a degree. The issue is you. And if that bothers you to hear it, then this is part of the problem. Like, it's not any of these things. Yeah. All of these things could be fixed. Some of them could be fixed. None of them could be fixed. I'm not arguing the validity of changing these could make a difference in your career. But if you're saying this is stopping you, the problem is you.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are real like I talk a lot about problems. I talk especially about AI stealing copyrighted content from artists, monetizing it, and using copyrighted content that they stole from us to replace us, which I think is a problem, obviously. And then a lot of people will say, well, Payne's always talking about problems. All your posts are negative. It's like, look, every day, number one, that's not true. But number two, every day I wake up and make more beats and upload more music and record more podcasts and make more content and educate more artists and make more YouTube videos and tweet more tweets and work on more drum kits and release more sample packs and network with producers. I can talk about that's the thing. If you think I'm being too negative, why am I making progress every day? That's not a negative person's trajectory. A negative person's trajectory is to either ignore problems completely and not do shit, or focus entirely on problems and not do shit. We can have these conversations about negativity, but that doesn't stop us. So I'm not here to say, like Erinn, I'm not here to say people who complain about the music business are just negative people who are not going anywhere. You can have grievances. People have grievances at their 9-to-5s all the time, but they still show up and do the work and can collect a paycheck. I think it's all valid.
Yeah. The only people that I kind of feel for in this era of music is songwriters. I kind of feel for songwriters. However, everybody's role evolves. Like, the role of a manager is way different today than it was 20 years ago. So why expect anybody to be able to continue to do the same thing and reap the same benefits? I obviously agree with you guys, but what I thought was interesting is I Googled problems of the music industry in 2012, right? And Digital Music News put out an article with 100 different problems, right? And I wasn't trying to compare and contrast what are the problems are. The point is that there were 100 problems in 2012. And I'm sure if I Googled for 2000 and 1995, there were 100 problems then too, right? And I think it's the people that are creative, the people that don't complain, the people that get to it and just figure it out are the people that win, because we probably should put together a list of the best things about music or creating today in 2024, because there's a shitload of them, right? There's more independent creators making it happen today than ever before. So while you over here cheering on this list of the things that are wrong about the music industry, there's a shitload of other people like just raking in the cash, right? Whether it's brand deals, streaming revenue, people that then actual streamers like Kai Cenat and people do all this stuff on Twitter. There's all these platforms, all these different revenue streams, so while some people are complaining, some people are getting to it. I'm seeing the same thing in television and film, right? Like, Hollywood's taking a hit. There's less productions in LA. There's a lot of actors that are complaining because they're used to that old model. I've talked to a few that are like, man, I'm going to pivot into something else because the opportunities just aren't there. On the flip side of that, I work with people like Big Ja who are just creating the opportunities themselves, right? It's more work. It's more work because you're not just waiting to be put into a production. You have to create the production, but the opportunity is there. Things are just shifting. So we probably should put together a list of like the great things about music just to kind of change the tone and remind people that you got to get to it if you really want this. There's a lot of people that claim they want it, but they don't really want it. They'd rather complain and point fingers. They're not really about getting to their work and to do the things that they don't feel like doing. Those are the people.
I feel like we could give a top 2 right now. Do you know what I'm saying? I feel like we could give some pointers right now. And I do want to release this list, and not to counter Rob, because Rob is a content creator and this is not a shot. So like he's an educator too. I'm not taking away from him, but this is like a good place to evaluate, one, where your audience base is, and 2, to get a lot of attention for his newsletter, because he released this in his newsletter, which is tight the way he does his newsletter, all that. Shout out to Robbie. We've talked about him a lot. So that's not a shot at all. It's not a shot to him to release this list. I just think I didn't stay on the list long enough to read all 39 points, because I was like, I don't want to read this shit. Like, it doesn't matter to me. One, because I feel like I'm more music industry adjacent, but that was my adjustment. I'm like, this some bullshit. I don't like this about the music industry. I'm going to move sideways. I'm going to take my expertise, make the money off of that, and I'm going to go into a different field and lean there, because that's what I choose to do, right? Because the ball is always in my court. And sometimes it isn't even all about raking in the money. I want that too, but I needed more peace of mind than anything at that moment in my life, right? I'm like saying no to bread at this point in my life. Even though I could use it, I got debt to pay off. I got shit I want to do. I want to get a new apartment. You know what I'm saying? I got shit to work on. But it's like, peace of mind was more valuable to me. So like, one, you got to determine what you're looking for. But then two, I think for people who sat and maybe spent a lot of time with this list, this may be your first time hearing this, and you may just go look at it, which is fine. I think it's cool to evaluate things. I wanted enough awareness of it, but I was like, this shit is not productive to my life. I will tell you two things right now that are incredible in the music industry, and it's because we're in the digital age. It is so easy to create and release exactly what you hear in your head, because you can, whether it be from an online community where you're sourcing beats from Pain and you're learning how to mix and master your voice from a YouTube video, and then you're humming something into your phone and then you're putting it into a system and then it interpolates it into a beat. You can literally get the shit that's in your head out without leaving your house or really spending much money, right? So I think that is incredible. Yes, it creates hundreds of thousands of songs being uploaded daily. Sure. But I think as a creative, it's so beautiful to say, this is in my head and I can get it out into the real world without many barriers. I feel like that gives people art for the sake of art, which is what I'm a huge proponent of. Just doing art for your well-being, for your mindset, for that. And then art for the sake of art could turn into income for you, right? So that's one thing. My second thing, also related to the digital age, is how quickly you can connect with your own solutions, whether it be from a podcast or from DMing somebody or from buying a tool or a class or whatever online. If you can think of what your problem actually is, you can almost immediately Google a solution. Like Dame said, I Googled 100 problems in 2012. That's just to make his point. He just had a quick. So I think it's this era of the music industry. Yes, there are follies. I agree. I personally, as I've said on this podcast multiple times before, think it is one of the hardest eras to succeed in. Everybody doesn't agree with that, but I think just by sheer volume, you're having to fight way harder to cut through the noise. I know in the Motown era, you were fighting different things and there was a lot more, but so I'm not saying that every struggle is the same. I'm just saying, I think it's very tough in my experience to break an artist right now. So I'm not trying to do that. But, I think there's so many benefits to the music industry right now. And one is the two that I suggested are because of ease and access.
I'd be interested in in future episodes, kind of focusing on a couple of these problems and really unpacking them, because I think if nothing else, at least just potentially working around the mentality that these particular problems are holding people back could be useful to some folks.
Well, I think one, if it's a problem that we can't control, we just immediately just go to the next one. It just some things just are what they are.
Right.
But then you have problems like number 15, where people say nothing works. Like, what? Like, what? Like, obviously, there are many artists that have figured some things out that are working for them. So I got to talk to Rob. Like, how do you even let that one on the list? That one should have just, like, nothing works. Like,
because it creates dialogue. Because it's probably so many people said that. Look, you know what I'm saying? I can only imagine so many people being like, nothing works.
I see that shit in real life. Like, anytime it happens. So I work with Ted Park very closely. I see people from my city, because he's from the same place. I see the comments, oh, yeah, that's great that he's succeeding. It's because he has a rich dad. Oh, that's great that he's succeeding. It's because he's Asian. It's like neither of those things are actually true. What are you talking about? But everybody has an idea of why something works for someone else and why that same thing doesn't work for them. And so I think it's worth.
It's not true that he's Asian, or it's not true that
he is Asian. I can. Oh. Well, I haven't.
You think it's not true that that's the reason that it works?
Yeah. And people will say, that this is what works. You're only successful because of A, B, and C, and you're like, wow, I had to overcome A, B, and C until I realized how to brand myself based on what I initially saw as an obstacle for myself. So I think perspective matters, but I think if you're at that point where you're stuck on number 15, you're
those
deep
are
in
the people that got to get out of here. Those are the ones who don't even deserve the first point that we made. It's like, big dog, you just need to go work at a really menial job that you hate and just keep complaining about life, right? Because it's just like, if you have that, again, that type of defeatist mentality, you probably just don't enjoy life. You need to get off the internet and touch grass and find what makes you excited. Go on a hike, figure some shit out, because that's a crazy type of statement.
The fact that there's too much gatekeeping and then too little gatekeeping, like back to back on the list, or just being on the list in general, is, I don't know. It just kind of tells me that people are living in different music industry experiences, like, and
different mental polarities.
And different levels of competency, because the Nothing Works crowd has never made money. Never. Like, and I'm saying you might have made $20 or $30, but you've never made enough money to like buy yourself a really nice meal or like go on a trip. So you're just like, there's no way it could work because I've been in it for 10 years. Those are the people who false start all the time or release one song every 3 years, or they see some traction, or they release an EP 10 years ago and Drake's best friend's sister's brother heard it and said he was going to get it to Drake and then never did. And you're like, nothing works. I was even in Drake's camp and I never got signed. You know what I'm saying? These are stories that I genuinely hear when I had this dude call me to do a consultation, and he was telling me about how 10 years ago he was like friends with Future's friend. And I was like, are you being fucking serious right now? And I was trying to like be gentle with him, but I'm like, you could have met Future yesterday. That doesn't do anything for your career. Like, are you telling me that he was like, man, I'm kind of plugged in. A lot of people used to know me because this, and this. And do you know who this dude is? And I'm like, no. He was like, he produced a song for 2 Chainz like 6 years ago. And I'm like, okay. And he was like, yeah, he's coming to my event. And I'm like, damn, do you really think, so those are the type of people who I feel like your level of competency is so low that you think that those are, again, to Payne's point, and I'll stop. I got brought on for a short time this summer to consult for a billionaire's son, right? Just didn't work because he's only 14, he's doing R&B. They couldn't figure out what they wanted to do. They just spent like $150K in the last like 6 months on an EP and coaching, So they just didn't want to spend the money on me because their consultant was trying to bring me in. And I was like, if she brings me into this shit show, it's going to cost. So it didn't work out, but we had done some calls. Billionaire, and I'm not exaggerating, I'm billionaire. This is old money from Europe. Billionaire's son, 14, they're throwing $150K in a 6-month period just at 4 songs, right? When I tell you 0 digital footprint, average TikTok view was like 200 views. Do you know what I'm saying? No streams. He had like the less than 500 on or less than 1,000 on everything. Do you know what I'm saying? Like nothing. The amount of money that you have does not matter if you don't have great music and you don't know what you're doing. If you know what you're doing with the ads, whatever, you find your audience base, you may see some traction. But like that myth of money, I'm telling you, I could show you so many examples that money is not what you're missing. If that's what you think it's going to take, money will help, no doubt. Listen, no doubt it'll help. But if you think that's what it is, then you're missing the whole point. Like you're just trying to keep from owning the responsibility that all this shit is not working out because of you.
I'm still of the belief that there's a certain it factor that's required. And I think that like there's more people with enough it to get to a certain point today than there's ever been before. Because like back in the day, you had to have like it. Like you had to have like Michael Jackson it, Justin Bieber it. Now, the it doesn't have to be that it, but there still has to be something there.
It could be like kind of it.
To leave.
Or like it in a scene, like it to these guys, it to streamers or gamers. Yeah.
So more people have the it that's required today to at least build something that can produce enough income so that this can be your career. But I still think that needs to exist. Some people might disagree, but for some people, it's just not there at all.
Well, that should make the list too. Why people value personality over music.
Literally, yes, because we're storytelling right now. Like, I gotta be interested in your story, big dog. So like, call it personality, call it brand, whatever. It's like, you don't go to a movie that you think is going to be boring. Like, you're just not. Like, that doesn't make sense.
So yeah, let's task ourselves with, putting together our list of what's great about, the music industry today. It doesn't have to be as long. It doesn't have to be, 39 or 99, but, and then maybe we go over our list next week on the podcast. And
I'm down. Let's do it.
We'll put it out.
Would y'all want to do like 5 or 10?
Yeah, just shoot me like 5. I mean, I'm sure some of ours will overlap, but
this is a list of the problems or the benefits?
This is like what's great about the music industry today. And a lot of them will be kind of the same as what's on the problem list. Because a lot of people, again, don't want to rehash the Spotify conversation, but there are quite a few artists that love Spotify. I'm not claiming that it's perfect. But I tweeted the other day, like, folks used to put their shit up on Datpiff, no problem, and not expect a dime, and was happy about it. And those same people say they miss Datpiff and hate Spotify. It's like, what?
Or even like WorldStar. Like, I know people who used to go viral or try to go viral on WorldStar, and you're not making any money from that, big dog. There's no, like, WorldStar is right. You, in fact, paid them to be posted for high priority, for your video to go viral, for them to make money off the YouTube views and off of you paying them. And folks would just be like, and I'm saying, like, I lived in that era, like, at the top of my career, dudes, and I really used to be like, so wait, we're going to pay them? You want to spend the money on this and not on, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Well, WorldStar actually worked for some people. I mean, for most people, it was kind of a scam, but, getting your shit on WorldStar for a while was like, obviously it didn't just require
when it first started, for sure. But I feel like that's when it was a bit more in its organic age. And then kind of like when it first started charging, it's kind of like the Shade Room. When you used to do seating on the Shade Room, that shit used to make you money, whether you were selling a product or putting a song or a movie. But now, they're like marketers will be like, yeah, the Shade Room, the spend isn't worth it because it's just become like a junk column. So I agree at one point, but I still feel like by the time I came around, WorldStar was like hood shit, you know what I'm saying? And I was working in rock music, and then I came back around to hip hop, and when hip hoppers were still like WorldStar, I'm like, what? Like, you could put this on a different YouTube channel and get better results.
Yeah, all opportunities, morph over time, right? They might start out as effective, but then too many people find out about them, or the platforms start getting greedy, because obviously WorldStar made a shitload of money. And what they would do is they would just take bread from independent artists, and inflate the views, right? Them views weren't real. And
was definitely using bots. They probably had Chad Focus in the building back then, because them videos, sometimes they post and an hour later you're like, I got 100,000 views, and it's like, yo, what?
But and I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that the mindset has shifted, because people gladly put their shit up on Napster or LimeWire. They gladly put their shit up on SoundCloud, Datpiff, live mixtapes, whatever. Didn't expect a dime. Just was just up there. And now, Spotify is at least, it's actually a great livelihood for a lot of people. We're given, it's not unusual here at Two Lost to do 6-figure, even low $1 million deals. based on streaming royalties, right? And compare that to, just throwing your shit up on Datpiff. Again, not saying Spotify is perfect, but it's funny how people miss Datpiff and hate Spotify.
I mean, I remember when LimeWire was like, before it got crazy, I used to go on LimeWire and listen to music, and my friends would be like, "Oh, I'm downloading it." And this is before I was in the music industry. I'd be like, "I don't want to steal these artists' music." And I remember this one dude in my area. He was like a pretty kind of up and coming singer songwriter. He was like, "I don't care if you're on LimeWire taking my music. That means that you like it and you're playing it." And I remember being like, "Oh, I still never got behind downloads on LimeWire and putting them on because I felt bad for artists. I just it's just an integrity thing for me." But I remember him having that whole discussion where he was like, "At least you're discovering my music. I just want people to like my music." Obviously, back then he was trying to convert it into live performances and stuff like that. But his thing was, in this entire world, if somebody discovers me on LimeWire, I'm super cool. Them just knowing that they love one of my songs.
Well, just compare the discoverability of LimeWire to that on steroids in Spotify. Do you know how many artists have been discovered via Spotify? How come we're not just as happy? I think a big reason is because it's big tech, right? Even somebody responded to my tweet about Datpiff. They were like, "Well, Datpiff felt like a community." What? What? I think they felt like Datpiff was part of the culture, and Spotify is big tech, and they are
oh,
the enemy.
okay, I see.
You know what I'm saying? When Datpiff didn't give a shit about you, they didn't give any, they were like, "Thanks for these, thanks for these checks." So I don't know what it felt like. I'll tell you what it was. But
and I get it because it was culturally yeah, my joint is on the front page of Datpiff. I get that for sure. I'm not taking that away, but big dog, they don't care about you. They was running the check for sure. And it would be all the scammers too, because it would be a dude who could be like, "Hey bro, I can get you on Datpiff. It'll just cost $250. And he was taking it to his homie who charged $100, who was taking it to his cousin's homie who was like, "Yeah, bro, just smoke me out and I'll put your track on." You know what I'm saying? It was this whole, I won't even call it a scammer ecosystem, but it was a bunch of people trying to come up. Same with, Datpiff, World Star, and I was in Atlanta, the heart of the ecosystem, where dudes are standing on the corner making actual exchanges. I'm not even talking about drugs. I'm saying they're talking outside about "Hey bro, da-da-da said he could get me on Datpiff. I need you to send me some bread because this is about to put us on," outside the barbershop type vibes.
And how many producers did not get paid from the music that was on Datpiff?
None of us got paid, and I was dropping mixtapes on there.
Yeah,
it was such a weird time because I remember a lot, some of the mixtapes I was putting out were thriving, and I couldn't monetize it, and I didn't even think that I could. I was just like, "This is how it is. Okay, cool, whatever." The only thing I can do is try to convert this into beat sales or performance opportunities with the artists I was working with. So we got some shows off the blog era attention, me and I-20 especially, but 5, 6, 10, even if it was 20 shows, who cares? That we couldn't sustain off that.
Yeah, no, it's just wild just to kind of see the shift in people's mindset. At the end of the day, people are always going to complain, but we'll wrap it up. Just a reminder that you can get 3 months free music distribution on 2 Lost just using the code MEC. Release as much music as you would like for 3 months, and then you should probably stay tapped in because after that, it's only $3 a month. So we'll put together this list of the great things about the music industry today, and hopefully that is a little bit more encouraging and inspiring. So start taking advantage, because one of the reasons that you might win is because everybody else is complaining while you're continuing to work and figure shit out. So, I know there's a shitload of artists that are pursuing music, but the percentage of artists that are pursuing music the quote unquote right way and aren't getting discouraged and making excuses is actually a very small percentage. So there's your opportunity. All right, y'all. Until next time. Peace.